Hello, my friends, and welcome to the next video in the Create Better Content series where I show you how to tap into your creativity to stay consistent with your marketing and reach more customers. My name is Penny, and I'm going to be your guide through this unique content development process. I'm going to teach you about engaging content, remarkable content, amazing content, all of those things that we use for our sales pages, our social media posts, even email sequences. All of these things combine together to help us reach more qualified customers. And if you want to learn more about creativity and how this can help you develop your content marketing plans, I would love to see you hit that button below and subscribe to this channel. And below in the description box are some links. One of the links that you're going to see is for the Content Calendar Blueprint program. It's an email-based training, and it's a comprehensive guide that's more than just how to set up your content calendar, but it's going to take you through the steps to actually develop a content strategy and to use your content calendar with content in it. So it's going to take you through the steps to not just talk about the strategy, but what's the content that you should be using along the way of your strategy. Along the way. You know what I'm trying to say. Basically, what's going into that content calendar. So another link that you're going to see is that you can join us to the Marketing Strategy Collective program and personally go through this process with us so that you can learn how to develop remarkable content. You can do it in a supportive group online space and see what happens with your strategy when you actually experience getting support, getting some help, getting feedback from other business owners. So let's jump into this today, because one of the things that I want to talk about is not just the customer buyer's journey, but the customer buyer's journey and how it relates to your content. You know, I just talked about the Marketing Strategy Collective, and we had our Zoom call this morning, and one of our members was talking about how she is in the process of launching a program. And so she was telling us that we were working through some storytelling ideas for her marketing, and so she was basically, her question was, so where do I put all this stuff? How does all of this, where do I go? Do I go to LinkedIn? Do I need to create, some videos for YouTube? Should I do something on Instagram? And I had to have her stop. And I said, now before you go creating a whole bunch of new content, do you currently have some other content that you have already? It's something that you've been using, because she hasn't just started her business. She's been in business for years. And I was like, do you have blog posts and videos and social media and emails? So she's like, yeah, I've got all that together, but I want to create some new stuff. And I'm all for creating new things. But what I wanted to tell her, and I'm going to tell you as well, I'm going to share this with you, as I wanted to tell you how to take all of that content that you already have, all of that stuff that you poured hours into, everything from developing the content to creating all of these videos and these amazing images. And I want to show you how to take this content and map it out into the customer buyer's journey to create your own funnel so that every single post, every single message actually leads someplace. Because one of the things that I was telling our member this morning on the call was it's not just about putting that information out there, because that's not what the customer buyer's journey is about. It's not about saying, hey, I've got this information. Here you go. Here's my marketing message for this part. Here's my marketing message for this part. It's more than that. And so let's talk through this. Think about the content that you already have, stuff that you've already written, something that you've already put out there, and whether or not this particular content is actually, let's see here, generating engagement, generating clicks, getting people to take action on that. It's okay, because I want to show you ways that you can update that information and that you can make it flow better and create a more intentional sales funnel, is the way I'm going to put it here. So let's go through this here. Let's think about your content, the stuff that you've been talking about, the things you've been posting about, the things you've been writing about, the things you've been spending hours creating. So let's go through this whole process. So let me start with the core of the buyer's journey. So the core of the buyer journey is based on 3 steps. Awareness, when they realize that they have a problem. Consideration, where they're looking for their options and they could be considering your business as one of their answers, or the decision, when they're finally ready to click here on that buy here button. So those are the 3 steps that we move through with the buyer's journey. And as I shared with you in another video, that it's not a straight line. This is not something linear where people go, okay, I got 2 weeks in awareness, 2 weeks in consideration, maybe about a week and a half to get them to close the deal. It doesn't work like that. The customer journey, your sales funnel, it's not a linear structure. It's that people zigzag, they loop around, they follow you, they get real engaged for a couple months, and then they might ghost you for 6 months. So what do you do with all this content in between all of that stuff to keep them engaged, to keep your business top of mind, so that people will think about you when they are ready for that, looking for that solution, when they are ready to make that decision? Because here's this thing about your content. You want to make sure that the content that you are putting out there is aligned with your community in their journey, is aligned with where they are in their buyer's process, not where you think they should be. So let's take this information and map this out with some of the content that you already have. Maybe we could close some gaps. Maybe we could take some of your content and rework it in the sense to make it more, improve the engagement on it, get someone to take some action on it, and maybe with just a couple of simple fixes. And I want to go through that today too. But let's start at the very beginning. What I want you to do is I want you to do like an inventory of what you got. What are your marketing assets? And when I'm talking about your marketing assets, it could be stuff that you have anywhere. Blog posts, reels, YouTube videos, social media posts, email newsletters, your lead magnets. All of that stuff combined is your marketing assets. So look and see if you've got, some people might have some in a Google Drive, and your computer folders, a Canva folder, maybe your content lives someplace else in the cloud. Take an inventory of all of it. And like I said, not just your social media posts, not just the stuff that you have published. What about things that maybe you've started? Maybe you've got a couple of blog posts in draft form that are just sitting there waiting for you to finish them. So look at everything that you've got and kind of inventory it together. Find a place where you can compile all this information together. And I mean just kind of putting notes together. You could put it in an Excel spreadsheet if that works for you. You could just do something as simple as a Google document and just sort of listing things out. I have X number of blog posts. I've got 5 reels. I've got 20 YouTube videos, social media posts based on this. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Make sure that you kind of write it out and put some notes together. Because the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to categorize this content and take a look at this content and whether this content actually generated any kind of engagement, got anybody to take action. That's not what we're talking about right now. I want you to think about the type of content that you're looking at, the blog post, the reel, the email message. Does the content fall into one of the 3 stages? The awareness stage, because this content is the stuff that's going to help your community recognize that they have a problem. So look for your content that's going to say, when you're stuck here and that's not trying, signs that this isn't working. Share relatable stories, pain points, mindset shifts. All of this kind of content becomes awareness content. So we're going to categorize this in the awareness content. And then look to your other content and see if does it fit into the consideration stage. And this is the content that educates people, gives them value and positions them, kind of guides them into understanding that your business could be considered, why we call it the consideration stage, could be considered as a solution to their problem. This is the kind of stuff where we do how-to posts, tips, hacks, tricks, that kind of stuff. It gives them a lot of value about how to do something. A framework, comparison, case studies, how I help my client do X kind of stories. Those are the type of content that I want you to categorize in the consideration stage. And then look to the rest of the content that you have. Does your content then fit into something that would be considered in the decision stage? The content that invites them to take action, to make a purchase, like testimonials, sales page copy, the doors are open posts, your launch sequences, offer breakdowns, FAQs, frequently asked questions, what are their objections? All of that type of content falls into the decision stage. And so when you've broken down your content and you can actually see which category it goes to, that is the point when you can start building out your customer journey with your existing content. And that was one of the things that I was sharing with our member this morning when she asked me that question, because she basically had the story that she wanted to share. And she immediately said, where should I share it? How should I share it? And I asked her to back up a couple of steps. And these are the steps that I'm asking you to take. Don't just put it out there again. Really be intentional about it, because then when you can see what's awareness, what's consideration, and what's decision type of content, it's going to allow you to really start to plan out the funnel even better. And it's going to be more, it's going to be connected. It's going to be more connected, because what's going to happen is your content's going to lead, your awareness content's going to lead into the consideration, which is going to, organically lead into the decision type of content. So if we think about it from that place, what I'd like you to start doing is, when you looked at all your content, I want you to pick one offer, one product, one service, one thing that you want to promote. And if we can think about it from that place, try this out. Build like a little mini version of your customer journey by using this one offer. If you were to use this one offer, what would be some content that you already have that's already been created? You can pick like 1 or 2 pieces of content for each one of these stages and kind of map it out into a simple funnel. Write it out with a piece of paper, use a Google Doc to sketch it out. Somehow or another that you can visually see how one piece moves into one piece, moves into one piece. And keeping in mind that we don't move through a sales funnel in a linear fashion. So if we needed some awareness content and then consideration content, we might need to go back to awareness content. So think about how that sales funnel would flow. How would I share content that I already have that would make sense to get somebody to sign up for this offer, to get somebody to buy this product? When we map this thing out, we can look about what fits. And if you're finding yourself, trying to make something fit and it doesn't fit, but the topic seems to work, think about how you can repurpose that content. Because maybe a story post that you had originally thought would go for the awareness could actually be turned into more of a consideration post by adding like a tip to it, or a really strong takeaway that somebody can get to it, some steps that they can learn. So think of it from that place, that there might be an opportunity that the content itself within the topic of the content could work for this sales funnel, but you might still need to be some tweaking to it, some adding to it, and that's perfectly fine too. Because if we look at this content, if we look at what you're working with, kind of, all that inventory that you took, it's we can figure out ways that we can turn this into a working content funnel. And what's going to be really fascinating is when you go through this exercise and when you do these steps, you're going to go, my goodness, I had no idea that I had this much content. And I had no idea that I had this much content that I could maybe even repurpose and recreate it, and to turn this into a better, stronger funnel. Because what I want you to know about doing this process here is that all of that content that you created before, it's not wasted. It's not something that's just like, one and done and it's gone. You don't have to create brand new content every day. Every post that you've created, even like random inspiration posts, or maybe something that was, a little off topic, every piece has potential. Because when you organize it in the sense of looking at it from awareness, consideration, and decision, and that buyer's journey, it stops just being a list of content. It stops just being, let me just post something up just to post and say that I've posted, which ends up feeling just like noise or you shouting into the void. But when you organize it like this, and when you think about how it flows as a sales funnel, it starts to become more of a content development, a content development system that leads people to buy from you. So let me show you how this works. So you've categorized your content into the awareness, consideration, and decisions. Let me give you some ideas about how you can pull this together and turn this into a content mix. So let's say that you pulled your information together. I'm going to give you a couple of content ideas. Let's say you want to create something like a mini series. So what if you took one post from each one of those stages of the awareness and consideration and decision, and turned it into like a 3-day email series or a carousel sequence on Instagram. You start with the pain point of awareness, you offer insight, consideration, you close with your solution, decision. So you can take some of these things and actually combine them together. So a lot of times we look at each individual post and say, how can I rework this post? But what if several posts could be combined together into like a 3-day email series or a carousel sequence or something else that you can utilize, that you can, put as together as a series, or something that you might even be able to do, with just images. So think of it from that place too. So it's not just about reusing and repurposing it, but looking at it from the from the perception of what's it selling, how is it selling, who is it reaching, how is it reaching them. So if we think about it from that place, it helps us, I think the word reorganize is the word I'm looking for. So reorganizing your old content and putting it into like a mini series like that. Another idea is to take some of your awareness stage, some of that brand new content where people are starting to get to know you, and then maybe posting it with like a free download, a free lead magnet, that type of thing. You can actually create a new lead magnet based on a piece of content that's doing well. And then if you think about it from that place, if you start from just awareness, and it could be that's what the original lead magnet is, maybe then the lead magnet develops follow-up emails, and then the follow-up emails become more of the consideration emails, become more of the decision type emails, and we could build a funnel just from your lead magnet with some content that you already have. So take a look at some of your content and see, is there a way that all of this could fit together so that I could turn this into more of a lead magnet, more of something that I could, a path where I could bring somebody down where they start here at the awareness and then they can move all the way down to decisions, utilizing something that I've already created, some content that I already have. And if we use our buyer's journey as like a content calendar, how we plan out our content calendar, if we think about the buyer's journey and how we would utilize that content calendar, we could change the thought process. So instead of saying, what am I supposed to be posting today? We think about, what stage of this journey am I talking about today? What stage am I supporting with my content right now? And we plug this into the map, and we don't think about, having to create new fresh content because we already have some of this content here. We can look and see how we could reuse it in another way by creating this kind of buyer's journey with it. So here's the thing about this. If we really, to sum this whole idea up about utilizing the customer buyer's journey with regards to creating content or recreating or resharing content that we already currently have, it's about thinking about it from this perspective, because you don't always need to create new content. Sometimes we just need to take our content and rework it and then create a better flow, the better way that we're sharing it, because it is possible to set up a content funnel, to set up an opportunity to reach new people with content that you already have. With already having, you don't have to recreate all the videos again. You don't have to recreate all of the images again. It's just a matter of finding a way to put them in order and put them together like it's a path moving from awareness to consideration to decision, all of that type of stuff. If we could rework some of these things, we don't always have to create brand new from scratch content. We can use the content that we already have. But we want to make sure as we're moving through this process that it's not about just pulling and grabbing content that we've used before, or maybe even using something that's done very well before, which sometimes we all have a piece of content that's done really, really well. But if we look at it from this place, the content marketing still has to have a plan, because your marketing content can't just be random and scattered. What we want to do is we want to think about this buyer's journey as the roadmap, and it's showing us how to pull all of these pieces and parts together. And we take a look at the content that we already have. We look at which part's going to be from each one of the different levels, awareness, consideration, decision, and all of that kind of stuff. And we think about categorizing this, and then we can figure out, by looking at our content that we currently have and looking at the message that we are trying to get out, and looking at the people who are our customers who are trying to reach, and we can use our content together like this and create a buyer's journey of the content that we already have and turn it into the sales tool that content was created to be. So thank you so much for joining me today on this creative journey. If you've enjoyed this content about content development, I hope you'll hit the share button and let's keep this conversation going. And if you found this helpful, I'd love for you to make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss next week's videos, because I'm talking about real strategy here, real results, not just marketing tips for small business owners. And if you're ready to go deeper, I'd love for you to join us in the Marketing Strategy Collective on Patreon. This is where we take these concepts, this is where we take these ideas, this is where we take these processes and turn them into action. You get monthly strategy workbooks, creative brainstorming tools, a community of smart business owners who do things differently. So I want you to stop working in a solo bubble and work in a collaborative space and get the help you need with your marketing efforts. You see the link below and you know what to do to learn more, to get the marketing help you need to see real growth in your business. You are magnificent, my friend, and let me be the first to say, I'm proud of you. Until next time.